Welcome back, Changemakers. This is the Module 3, Lesson 2 of our grant writing course. In this Module 3, we are looking at design your idea like a pro, and this Lesson 2, we are looking at elements of a fundable idea. In the last lesson, which is Lesson 1, we explored how to move from passion to project, turning that emotional fire into a real-life plan. Now, it's time to zoom in on the 6 essential parts of any fundable idea. Now, these 6 parts form the skeleton of your proposal, no matter what you are applying for, whether it's a grant, a fellowship, or a donor pitch. So we're going to break this down one by one and take them after the other with explanation. So the first is the problem. Now, every project must align with a clear, specific problem, just like we've discussed in the lesson 1. Every problem must begin with a clear, every project rather, must begin with a clear, specific problem in mind. Now, we've talked about how to define the problem in lesson 1. So you're not just going to say there is poverty in Nigeria, for example, or I want to help girls. Judging from the example we used in the previous lesson, it has to be clear. But rather, instead of saying there is poverty in Nigeria, you have to go like you can define it more further. That say in Ajegunle, 3 out of every 5 young women aged 15 to 24 are unemployed despite having completed secondary school. This is more clearer and more specific, right? Now, funders want evidence. First thing. Now, when defining your problem or when defining the problem, it is important to know that funders want evidence. Funders want evidence. Okay, this evidence can be in aspect of maybe statistics or stories or surveys or what have you, but providing evidence to back up your story makes it more realistic and more specific for funders. And also, funders want focus. So they want focus, a narrow enough problem to solve within a few months or a year, right? They want that problem definition to be specific, to have evidence, to have focus on a particular issue. Now, also, funders also want urgency. Yeah. So the urgency is talking about why now, like why this particular moment in time. So these are some of the things that you can incorporate into your proposal, into the problem definition. Now we dwell more on this in the lesson 1. These are some of the basic essential parts of any fundable idea, building on what you have learned from the lesson 1. So another thing of elements of a fundable idea is the goal of that proposal or the project. Now your goal is the big picture result you want to achieve, like we've mentioned here in the previous lesson. Your goal is that big picture result that you want to achieve, the overall vision for that particular project. You should link directly to the problem you describe. Now, if you are saying you want to help girls, or if you are saying you want to provide training for girls, so how does it link to the problem that you have described? So you can use phrases like improve, improve, or you can use phrases like increase access to, there are a lot of them, all right? Let me put, so that means that these phrases, there are still going to be some words after them. So these are just phrases. You can use phrases like reduce the rate of, just like we've used in the previous example in the lesson one. And you can also use phrases like strengthen capacity for capacity for. So all right, now like I've mentioned, the goal is the big picture results you want to achieve. It should be linked directly to the problem you want to you've described. So another thing is looking at your objectives of that particular project. Now, let's break that big goal, the big goal that you've mentioned here, into objectives. Um, yes, like I mentioned, this is building up from what you have learned in the lesson one, which you already have an assignment in that to break down the particular project of yours using this framework. Now, every objective is like a building block of your goal. Objectives must be specific, measurable, time bound, and also achievable. Like we've mentioned, it must be smart. Smart. Um, Objective must be smart, and that means specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. All right, so objectives must follow this approach. They must be smart, right? Okay. All right. So another thing we're going to be looking at is activities. Now, this is how of your project. Activities is the how of that particular project, and what you will actually do on the ground on a day by day basis. That is what activities are all about. So I'm just referring you back to refreshing your memory back to what we have learned in the lesson one of this module three, because we have delved more into this. But this lesson two is to refresh your memory, and also to let you know that these are essential parts of any fundable project. So each objective should have like 2 to 4 activities, like we've explained. For example activities for the objective: train 50 peer educators or any whatsoever. It can include design a training curriculum. It can include partner with school principals. It can include hold 2 day workshop in each local government area. It can include print and distribute manuals. So activities help funders visualize your plan. If they can picture it clearly, they will trust you more. So make your activities logical, linked, and layered, right? Make them logical, make them linked, and also layered. Start with setup, then implementation, and follow up. That is a layered form of activities. Now, another aspect of a fundable project is timeline. So now, what timeline is all about is, once you have an objective and also you have an activities, timeline is about stressing those activities across time. If that project is going to take 3 months or 6 months, or whatsoever time that you think you can complete the project, so what will you do in the first week of the first month, second week? So all those activities that you have listed, how are you going to spread them over the time within the period, the project lifespan, maybe 3 months or 6 months or 1 year whatsoever. So you can represent your timeline as a list by weeks or by months. You can use a Gantt chart. I'm going to show you that one later. You can also use a simple table that will show activity, that will show the start date and also the end date. This is what I mean. Let's say I want to insert. Let me insert a table. Oops. So let's say I'm inserting this table to just show an activity. Here I put some activity and then the start date, for example. Now this is an example of a timeline, and then end date. Let's say we want to do a stakeholder engagement. Depending on your project and depending on the activity that you have worked for it. So in the previous lesson, there is an assignment. If you do these assignments, you can be able to break this into using a stuff like this. I mean, using this timeline structure to mention the activity, the start date, and the end date, and yeah. So let's say we're having stakeholder engagement here. Stakeholder engagement, and it's going to be by week one. Week one, you can put the dates. Let's say week one is July. July 3 to 8. Just example, right? Just example. So then the end date also, then you can add more of those activities to it. So funders need to see that your project is doable and organized, even if it's a short-term project. So most beginners projects are between 3 to 12 months, like I've mentioned. So the sixth item of a fundable project is the budget. So this is where many people freeze, but you don't really have to. Now the budget is very, very important. Some particular grant application actually have a template for their budgets. That means that you just have to fill the Excel template. They really have that. Most of them, or some of them, have the template. Why some do not have a template for you? You have to develop your own. Even before you develop or you fill any template for a grant process, you have to know how to make the budget for that particular project before anything. So your budget does not need to be perfect. It needs to be realistic. It needs to be transparent and also aligned with your activities. Now, for example, now let's go to this activity that we have. Okay, now I put something here in the timeline. Stakeholder engagement, start date, end date, and let's say we have another tab here that how many of those stakeholders are we looking forward to invite, and what would be, okay, let's say we have this that we call cost. Oops. Let's say we have this and we put cost here. So this stakeholder engagement, how much will it cost? So in as much we are dealing with cost, so let's ensure to put a dollar sign so that they will know that we are talking about money. So this stakeholder engagement, let's say, is going to cost us $100, for example. So this is a form of budgeting. So listing all your activities and then putting the cost, you are already getting the idea of the budget, right? Already get it. Now in lesson 4, I'm going to take you break this thing down to 4 particular projects that you will be looking at. So in your budgeting, you want to ask, what do I need to carry out this project? And then you also want to ask, what is the quality and unit cost? All right, you also want to ask, what can I do in kind, and what must be done, what must be paid for, right? So these are some of the things that you can ask in budgeting. In lesson 4, we are going ahead to create a real life project that I'm going to be creating from scratch. So in this course, that video might be longer, but that is what we're going to do in lesson 4. So how does all of this connect? How does it all connect? So in full circle, you identify a problem, right? And then you crafted a measurable goal for it, right? And then after you crafted that measurable goal, you broke it down into objectives, and then you listed actionable activities, and you mapped a timeline for that particular project, and finally you estimated the cost. So that is the core of any fundable idea. So if there's a golden rule that I want to give you. If a stranger reads your proposal and can picture exactly what you will do, when, where, and for whom, and why, then you have done your job very well as a grant writer. All right. Yes, ideas are very powerful, but structural ideas get funded. Don't be afraid to start small. What matters is that your idea is clear, compelling, and also practical. So in the next lesson, we will simplify the theory of change, which is a tool that helps you explain how your activities lead to real impact. So this is Grand Database, and I'm Oluwole, reminding you that great ideas are built, not just born. So let's keep building together. If you are new here, ensure you subscribe to this channel. See you in lesson 3.